Well, more wickets for India in one session on day two than they picked up in all of day one. 95 runs still for Australia, but both their overnight batters dismissed. So at 422 for 7 as lunch is taken on the second day of the ICC World Test Championship final. Let's see where this game stands on ESPNcricinfo Match Day, powered by Adidas. We'll hear from Brad Haddin in just a moment. Sanjay Manjrekar here as well. Well, they've gone at a decent rate, Sanjay, so they're still 422, but India would be very happy with 4 wickets. Are they back in it?
Absolutely, big improvement. Obviously, it's nothing new. But what you can say from the situation and what was transpiring yesterday and the potential that was there for today, it's damage control. When you look at the whole innings, 420 runs is a lot of runs. But now again, I'm not able to understand this pitch. When India bats on it, how does India find the surface against the kind of bowlers Australia have? So this is something that is somewhat expected with this Indian team, with the kind of quality they have in the seam department. I know some of the other big guns are missing. There's no Jasprit Bumrah there. But we said at the start of the show as well, this bowling attack of India will keep bringing India back in the game. Finally, it comes down to how India bats. Now, 420, much better than, say, 420 for 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So that brings India back in. If they bat well, then we have a game on our hands.
Interesting, because we felt that if India are to strike, they'd need similar sort of conditions as they had yesterday. Brad Haddin in the first session. There could be some overhead conditions that would help, but it was bright and sunny. Steve Smith got him off to just the start that Australia would have wanted, got his 100 quickly, and it was ominous. It felt like they could get as many as they want. So how do you explain those 4 wickets in that session? What changed?
Yeah, I think what changed today was the aggressive mindset of the Indian, not only the Indian bowlers, but also their fielders. We've seen one run out, which is a cardinal sin in any form of the game, but especially Test cricket. But what they did today, they challenged the top off stump a lot more, the Indian bowlers. Yesterday, they only bowled 9% of their balls at the stumps. Today, they challenged their stump. They used their bouncer as an aggressive tool today as well to make batsmen uncomfortable at the crease and get them second guessing. And then they got the rewards with the fuller ball. So it was really well bowled today from India, but it was a big mindset change in how aggressive they were with the ball.
All right, Sanjay leads to you towards telling us more on the surface. He's still unsure until he sees India bat, but how would you rate the surface after 4 sessions now, including another morning session where there wasn't a lot of overhead conditions?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look on the surface at 7 for 422, it looks like a really good batting surface. But I think India are going to find it tough to get themselves in. I think Australian bowlers will be that 3 to 5 Ks faster than the Indian bowlers. And we'll see quite a few balls go through the top. We've seen a couple of balls take the gloves of Steve Smith. One hit the back shoulder of Paddy Cummins. But if you hit that wicket nice and hard, there's a bit of uneven bounce in the surface. So I think that 422 is a long, long way for India to get. So they're going to find it hard with this attack of Australia.
All right, Brad compliments both the aggressive intent and more plans. And we saw that, Sanjay, even though Steve Smith was dismissed differently, there was 2 mid-wickets for him. They went with a plan to Travis Head. Now, does that tell us there's been a lot of reviewing and analysing yesterday evening, and that makes us wonder why India weren't as thorough with their plans yesterday? How do you see how they've
that
reacted?
could be something they would look at as maybe a mistake that happened, an error, and I hope it doesn't cost them too much, because the way they started off this morning, you saw Mohammad Siraj especially have a combination of getting that ball up there full and also a lot of short balls to Travis Head. In the end, the short ball worked. Now that should have been something they could have done the moment Travis Head came in. I can understand trying to use the pitch, but that's a bouncer has to be an integral part of your line of attack and your basic thought as a seam bowler, which came into play today. So I thought India did well, but maybe a bit too late because 400 runs are already on the board. But I expected India to actually come and be a little defensive because of the amount of runs that were put on there. But credit to them. They came in still searching for wickets and they got a few.
Yeah, I wonder what you made of the first over of the day, Brad, because you thought 2 half volleys went to Steve Smith and that's it now. That India seemed flat and that's how they've started. It's hot, it's sunny, and suddenly he pulls away for the Spidey cam. Siraj throws the ball at him. The two get into something. Was that fanning a fire that wasn't there? After that, it looked like Siraj woke up.
Yeah, well, what it looked like is Siraj got into the contest, and we've seen since he's come into this form of the game, when he's in the contest, that's when he bowls at his best. He's an aggressive fast bowler. He looks to get wickets, but the one thing he also likes to do, he likes to get under the skin of opposition batsmen and get himself into a contest. So we've seen that after the fourth ball, a little bit of push and shove went on there, and it just sort of woken Siraj up, and all of a sudden he's back in the game. He was a little bit quicker on the radar gun then, and he wanted to get Steve Smith out. It was personal there, and that's when we've seen the best of the Indian bowlers off the back of that.
As an authority on the subject, Brad, what does it take to get under the skin of the opposition?
There's the cheeky Raunak.
I'll have a stab in the dark of that. I wasn't much for that, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a reaction out of the opposition. You're trying to get them to do something that they don't want to do. And Steve Smith there, he got out of his bubble a little bit. We heard a lot on commentary about Steve Smith's in his bubble. Sangakkara spoke a lot about it, that Steve Smith's in his bubble. He doesn't really know what else is going on in the game. He's controlling his own emotions and the way he wants to play. But once that little confrontation happened, all of a sudden there was a little sniff at the other end. The Indian fielders, they lifted off the back of that as well. And the mindset of the whole game started to change.
There's something that I've seen with Mohammad Siraj. This may have been a genuine one where he got a little upset. I mean, this is a guy, when you do interviews with him, you see how simple he is. He's a very simple guy, very eager to perform, but then the white line fever that people talk about. I've seen him use this as a tactic as well, famously against Liton Das in Bangladesh, where, he started off batting superbly, and it was deliberate. I mean, there was no reason for Mohammad Siraj to go on the follow-through and say a few things to him. That was tactical. Now, these things are very good if the emotions don't get the better of you as a bowler. And that was tactical. Today may have been a genuine kind of, he was upset. But it's great to see that actually makes him a better bowler. And now he's starting to use that as another way or an option to just create inroads. So this is the growth of Mohammad Siraj, and it's lovely to see. Yeah,
got the wicket of Travis Head. That was the big one. So what happened there? We thought Travis Head was improving playing the short ball, but has he eventually just got a good one?
So it was interesting, actually. There's a short ball issue that we've been talking about, and now there are different ways that batters conquer it. There's the defensive way, and we saw Cameron Green, when he came into bat, he ducked under a bouncer, and people do that. Some try to just fend off. Steve Waugh famously would just drop his gloves and take everything on the body. This was a guy, modern day attacking batter, who clearly is a little vulnerable against short ball, but he scored a lot of the short balls as well. And every time he was hitting the ball, he was trying to keep the ball down. But it is something that bowlers will try, because it gets him to play shots that can also get him out. And eventually that happened, the way he got out, caught behind. So I thought a good ploy that bowlers from all over the world will keep trying. But it was interesting that in between the discomfort, there was some great, I mean, if you look at the highlights packages, you see some great pull shots being played right. You would think is a guy who is extremely good against the short ball.
Yeah, we saw him get a lot of boundaries, Brad, and we also saw him use the short ball with that little, the guide over the slips and play the ramp shot. But would you still say the jury's out on Travis Head against the short ball?
No, I think if you have a really close look at the way India used the short ball to him, you have to be your attention detail has to be spot on. If your short balls gives him any width, he'll go up over slips, or he'll freeze arms up and go up over backward point. But it's really important to get the short ball at his front shoulder. If they get it at his front shoulder or underneath his arm, that's when he found a bit of life was a bit uncomfortable for him, and that did change his game. And he looked like then he was vulnerable at stages. But it's that attention to detail when you're bowling your short ball. You've got to say, you know what, I'm going to bowl the short ball to hit him in the shoulder. If I'm going to give him any width, that's where Travis Head game comes into play there, because he does like width. So it's the attention to detail with the Indian fast bowlers that made the difference today.
And today I think Head realized that the Indian bowlers were working out that particular line that Brad was talking about. So there was one occasion when he went besides the line, where he wanted that ball to come actually to his offside. So he was slightly backing away to try and do something different, where he doesn't like it, as Brad said, exactly there. And the ball that he got out to, he came well inside the line. One of the things you can do with a short ball when it's predictable, you get plenty of time to make these kind of movements. So he tried to, eventually got out, but he had 160 runs in the end on the board. So who won?
One would think that there'll be a few more short balls to receive him the next time he comes in, assuming a second innings happens, that the India won't be waiting 160. They would have learned from his dismissal.
Yes, and let's see how he tackles that. But all these tactics have to come
at the right time.
Yeah, sooner than later.
All right, at least they got the wicket of Cameron Green. Who knows if Cameron Green would have gotten away quickly, what the scorecard of the state of the game would have been like. Does it tell us something, Brad, the point you make about whether India might still find it hard to bat, whether this surface is not as flat or batting friendly as either the scorecard or that partnership between Steve Smith and Travis Head might tell us, that wicket of Cameron Green?
Yeah, it's very hard to judge a surface till you see both teams bat. And we've seen enough on offer in this surface. We've seen the ball take the wicket a couple of times and go through the top. We've seen a little bit of inconsistent bounce. And Cameron Green, that ball was well delivered. The length was good. It got him pushing forward, brought the slips into play. But I think India are going to find it hard work. I think Australia are going to use the conditions really well. They'll have their analysts having a look at whereabouts in the wicket the tricks did play. So I think you're going to see quite a few balls go through the top and maybe a couple start to keep low when Australia had the opportunity to bowl.
Yeah, I mean, this is still only a 29 over ball and the wicket of Green fell in the 15th. So even deep into the innings, this Duke's ball, a neutral ball for these two sides, is going to be a challenge for new batters.
Yes, because the seam doesn't ever get soft on a Duke's ball. I think it's the ideal ball for Test cricket, where you always want to keep balance between bat and ball. So the bowlers will always be in the game, even if the ball is 40 years old or it's new, as we saw with the Indian team. So yes, it's going to be hard work because very often when you see a ball keeping low or rising from a length, in India you would walk down the pitch, you take your bat and you tap that particular area. Here there is nothing to see. There is just a sort of covering of grass. So all the nasty little things are hidden under.
All right, I'd like to put the combined experience of watching and playing the game at the highest level of Brad Haddin and Sanjay Manjrekar to answer the very simple question of how Shardul Thakur has knocked over Steve Smith today. Who'd like to go first?
I thought it was a better ball than the one that got David Warner down the leg side. So that's all I'll say.
That's a start.
Yeah. But it wasn't that bad a delivery. I mean, just outside off stump on length. The one that got David Warner was, I think he was very lucky with that. This one, you think different, right? I can see in your eyes that...
No, with due respect, it seems innocuous. And I must say, we can't keep saying he gets lucky with wickets. He has an ability here. I'm trying to understand the ability because it looks like Steve Smith is immune to error and he's played many better balls than that.
I'll just make one comment and Brad would be the right one to extend on this point. Steve Smith, amongst all the other things that he has, he's also a lot of hand-eye coordination kind of batter who uses his hands a lot to get in the right area to hit the ball. So on this occasion, maybe that just let him down.
100%. His quirky ways still finds him with a great Test career and not getting out. He doesn't get out to a Jaffa from Umesh Yadav, would be thinking, what more do I need to do? But he gets out to that ball. Brad, in all seriousness?
Yeah, I think he got done with lack of pace and the length. I thought he played, he just got his hands a little bit too far away from his body, got caught on the crease a bit, thinking the ball was going to swing and just held its line a bit. Steve Smith chopped the ball on. But they're ones, if you look at the over before, Alex Carey did exactly the same thing and it missed the stumps. Those ones can just be pot luck. They sometimes can just have your name on it. But I think it was the length that did Steve Smith. And Shardul, he bowled that consistent length most of the day yesterday. He got the ball nice and full, allowed the ball to move off the string if there was something there. So we've got to give him more credit because he continues to get big wickets. And Steve Smith was set. He was on 121. He was in total control of the game.
Brad, just want to ask you about Steve Smith, fascinating batter in the way he gets his runs. I mean, run machine, 3100s in such a short span of time. I just mentioned this hand-eye coordination. We see a lot of batters, we say just good hands. We had a Virendra Sehwag who didn't care so much about footwork. It was all hands. Would you put Steve Smith somewhere in that category where the hand-eye coordination is a big part of his batting and success?
Yeah, 100%. And I think another thing with Steve Smith is his power of concentration. The best players in the game are really good problem solvers. And the one thing he he works a lot at. He knows exactly what the opposition is going to do to him, and he's got that power of concentration to bat long periods of time. But he is, as you said, a very hands-eye coordinated sort of player. His technique at times can look unorthodox, but at the point of contact, he's in a perfect position. He does move around the crease a lot beforehand, but at the point of contact, he's got his weight going through his front leg. He plays the ball late, but he was done by length today. So, yeah, his biggest strength to me is power of concentration to bat long periods.
I guess credit to Shardul Thakur that he's got his first ball of the day spot on. If the length is indeed what's done Steve Smith in at 121.
I mean, when you look at Shardul Thakur, the way he looks, you wouldn't think that he's going to be a third fast bowler amongst, Mohammad Siraj, Shami.
I'm guessing as a batter, your guard drops as well a little?
But by now, people would be wary because this is a guy who's done it quite regularly. And I keep going back to his performance in South Africa when he got 6 or 7 wickets. So maybe on occasions it would be dropping. But now they know that this guy has a knack of getting wickets. And credit to him, with whatever he has as natural gift, that he commands a place as a third seamer. He was there in the team before Umesh Yadav. I mean, there was a toss-up between Ashwin and Umesh Yadav. And that, what to say, is well done to him. And plus, the dangerous batting talent that he possesses. And he gets you wickets. That is the key.
All right, so India have done well. They've managed to get 4. Can they wrap this up quickly, though? Just the other wicket that fell, Brad Haddin talks about how bizarre it is when a batter gets run out in Test cricket. But is it usual for Mitchell Starc to come in ahead of Pat Cummins, Brad?
Yeah, it's normally what happens these days. Mitchell Starc's quite handy with the bat, and he's one guy that will move the game forward. But I tell you what, a lot of run-outs happen when Alex Carey's at the crease. He does start his innings with a lot of nervous energy, but he is involved. Him getting run out or his partner getting run out a lot of the time.
Would you put that on Carey, though, in all fairness? Looks like Stark's hit it well and run, or is Carey responsible?
Well, Carey's not responsible this time, but I tell you what, he's a common denominator in a lot of the run-outs Australia have had. So Mitchell Starc's a disappointing one to get out that way because he's one guy that can move the game forward really quick and get 40 off 40 and really take that total from 420 to 480 pretty quick.
All right, let's look ahead to session number 2. This ball now is a little older. India have 3 wickets. The tail has at times haunted India when they've been overseas and they need some fresh bowlers to try and get those wickets. Siraj and Shami have bowled 27 overs each. Sanjay, how do you see this session going?
Just looking at the surface, how it's been to new batters coming in, the tail wagging doesn't seem like it might happen as much on this pitch. The main work was, getting number 4, 5, 6 out because that off late when you watched India play, most test teams, you see those guys contributing a lot, number 5, 6 and 7. So India have gone past that very dangerous critical phase. I don't see the tail wagging too much. So India have done a terrific job in the morning. It's now all about India batting in that first innings.
As a player who's struggled for a bit of form in Alex Carey, Brad, and he's found his way to 22 not out at lunch, would Australia be saying this was the day that we had the chance to outbat India effectively from this game? But a quick 3 wickets here might change that. So do you expect them to bat normally? Do you expect Carey and Cummins to try and go hard and flatten India out a bit more? What sort of approach are you expecting in the second session?
I think Australia will be really proactive here. I think Alex Carey will try to farm the strike as much as he possibly can. But it's going to be an interesting time for Rohit Sharma. I've seen he had a deep point out at stages to Pat Cummins. He had the same out to Mitchell Starc. Yeah. I'm bringing the fielders in. I'm saying to Paddy Cummins, listen, if you're good enough to hit the ball through the field, that's okay. Because if the Indian bowlers hit that length, we've spoken about that 5-metre length, don't change what they've done today, then they will create chances. But what they don't want to happen, they don't want Paddy Cummins to be getting off strike, only facing 2 balls every over, 1 ball here, having an over at the non-striker's end. So I think Rohit Sharma has a big role to play in making Paddy Cummins face as many balls as he can. Interesting,
because this is a big session, you'd think, in how this game might go on. India get Australia for 450, they would have said, we've suddenly gone back in this day is ours. Australia get 500 plus in quick time, and that might keep only one winner alive, possibly.
I see Rohit Sharma doing the same to the new batters. I don't think he's ready to make the kind of deal where you want to have somebody on strike like a Pat Cummins for a few overs and then conceding a boundary, because that's 4 runs more to get. Now
So
he'll
not
be very
overly aggressive or attacking.
Yeah, and that has been India's way for a lot of modern day batters who, even if they take off single, they don't feel like they're in, or they feel now they are slowly getting into their innings. It's the boundaries that make them feel confident, and for India now every run matters. So I think there'll be an in-out feel which India loves. Virat Kohli used to love it.
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma also doesn't mind it. So more of the same, I think.
All right. The last question is, I guess with every session, I was hoping to go through a show without bringing it up. But given the non-use of Ravindra Jadeja here and the lack of impact of him, is it suddenly looking like the 4-man seam attack was perhaps the right way to go?
Not really, because see, Jadeja is a pitch-dependent bowler. And at the moment, there's nothing much there. So you can't use him too much. And India had committed themselves in that first session. Whatever little help you have in the morning, air. So that was done, full commitment to seam. If there was a spinner, and Ashwin at this stage, the way he's evolved, is somebody who in foreign conditions will use his guile a lot more, so not so much surface dependent. So if Ashwin was in the side along with Jadeja, you would have seen him bowl more as a spinner than Jadeja in the current situation.
All right, same question for Brad Haddin. We know it's Ashwin we're talking about, but is it a case of the 4-seamers didn't really bowl as well as they should have yesterday, but it was still the right ploy, or we still stand by what we said repeatedly on day one? Brad?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the 4-seamers playing, but I am still shocked with Ashwin not playing. I think Ashwin could have played a really big role to someone like Travis Head when he was taking the game on. You got to just look at his innings. Travis Head, he scored at a runner ball. Ashwin's very, very skillful on different surfaces. He's got the carom ball. He uses the crease really well, and today's just someone who just ties up the end. So I think they missed the skill of Ashwin, especially when Australia were putting on that big partnership. So I'm happy with the 4-seamers, but I'm still with everyone else. I think Ashwin should have played.
Okay, just thought we'd go through that one more time. It'll probably be a recurring theme, right, till the end of this test match. But we have the prospect of either a quick finish for this innings and we get to see India bat for the first time, or we could see Australia's lower order almost outbat India from this game. For now, it remains an intriguing session and test match ahead of us. So thank you to Sanjay Manjrekar and Brad Haddin. More from them at tea time on ESPNcricinfo Match Day, powered by Adidas. Download the mobile app. It'll have you covered with everything from the world of cricket, and you get the fastest live scores and so much more as we approach session number 5 of the ICC World Test Championship Final. We'll see you at tea time.
जिस पे नाम सिर्फ एक का हो,
लेकिन हो पूरे देश के नाम।
उस चीज को हाउ डू आई डिस्क्राइब इट? इस जर्सी के लिए मेरे फीलिंग समझाना इम्पॉसिबल है,
पर इसे पहन के
I feel just one thing, impossible
इज नथिंग।